Joe Kissell takes control of Tahoe and Mac Basics, Part 2. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Live, our weekly live panel discussion of what is going on in the Apple space, as well as the larger tech world, and how it is impacting you. Join us live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, or whatever time that is wherever you are, at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and participate in the chat, or catch the edited and segmented versions of the show on the regular MacVoices channels and feeds. Okay, so let's move to the functional stuff. What has changed that you feel really needs to be outlined or discussed or highlighted?
If you go to Apple's website and you look at the new features in Tahoe, the way they've grouped things is a little ambiguous. So there are some things that could be construed as aspects of liquid glass, even though they're not liquid or glassy, or not so much, but they are part of the UI redesign. And so, as an example, Control Center. Control Center was previously a little bit customizable. Now it's very, very customizable. You can choose from 80 different little widgets or tiles or whatever you want to call those elements in Control Center, and most of them can be any of small, medium, or large sizes, and you can rearrange them, put them anywhere you like. And not only can those switches and pieces of information and sliders and things appear in Control Center, you can also put them on your menu bar or take them off your menu bar or rearrange where they are on your menu bar using the same interface. Now, yes, those Control Center itself normally is kind of transparent or translucent. And so those little icons and thingies in Control Center will be too, but that's neither here nor there. Those give you real function. There's a switch in accessibility settings called Reduce Transparency. It's my favorite switch in accessibility settings because that one switch takes away a lot of the liquid glass effects, makes everything so much like the dock and the menu bar and Control Center and widgets. It makes them all so much higher in contrast and so much easier to read. And yet, when I'm taking screenshots for my books, I have to have transparency on sometimes. So you can add a little button in Control Center that is Reduce Transparency, and you can put that same icon on your menu bar so that now with just one click anywhere in Mac OS, I can turn on or off the Reduce Transparency. So that's really helpful to me. And there are a bunch of other things in there that it's like, well, I could do this before. There were ways of doing it before. Now there is a quicker, simpler, more direct way to do that. So that's nice. And I like the customizable Control Center. I have already customized mine, and I've made some menu bar customizations. And I appreciate having that new capability. It's not huge, it's not dramatic, but it's nice. It's a more direct way to get at some things that you do. That's the first and most obvious thing that comes to my mind. There are lots of other things. So maybe I'd next like to shift into talking about phone. So we already had some iPhone continuity features that were added last year in Sequoia. The biggest of which was iPhone mirroring. So now if your iPhone is in your pocket, it's on that table over there, you can bring up your iPhone screen right on your Mac, and you can do whatever you need to do on your iPhone screen. So that's nice. Also really nice if you have to take a screenshot of what's on your iPhone screen to put in a book, and you don't want to have to take it on your iPhone and then copy that screenshot onto your Mac and so forth. Okay. Well, this year, Apple did something even crazier. They put the phone app itself, the app on your iPhone that you use to make and receive calls, that app, they put that on your Mac too. So now you can make and receive phone calls through your iPhone. I mean, your iPhone is involved in actually connecting to the cellular network and so forth, but your iPhone doesn't have to be involved in the interface. You can make and receive phone calls right on your Mac. That's nifty. And all of the new features that came into iOS 26, that like the call screening and the call filtering, the things that reduce unwanted calls and live translation, so you can get have a real-time conversation with someone speaking another language, things like that. Those not only went into the iPhone itself, but they also made their way into the Mac phone app. So now I can do all those same things that I could only do on my phone previously from my Mac too. This is how I work. I'm standing or sitting in front of a desk, and I've got a bunch of things here. I've got a Mac here and a Mac there, and 2 iPads, and all the other things. Okay, so I'm surrounded by all this technology, but usually I'm typing here, and my screen is in front of me, and this is where I want my focus. So being able to make and receive phone calls on this screen and do all those same things that would normally involve pulling my phone out of my pocket, that's nice. It's helpful. So there are other things too. The hold assist feature, again, from your iPhone, where you call and somebody puts you on hold, and you know you're going to be there for a while. It could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, and you're listening to that awful, awful hold music in a loop every 30 seconds. Wouldn't it be nice to just go about your work, not hear that hold music, and get a little notification when a human comes on the line? Yeah, you can do that now. And ironically, the first time I tried this, I was calling my doctor's office to make an appointment, and they're just notorious for putting you on hold forever. And I called, I got on hold. I'm like, yeah, we're trying out this feature. And they came on the line in like 10 seconds, and I didn't even have time to take a screenshot of what was happening because they were too quick. Of course, that's going to happen. But anyway, so that feature, all those new features that you have on your iPhone, on your Mac too, that's nifty.
So, Joe, I get the impression that if you didn't outright state it, that you see this interaction as a positive thing between the two. Because I know I've read some pieces that say, the phone should be the phone, the Mac should be the Mac, and almost never should the two meet. And I didn't feel that way in the last version of the OS because I enjoyed the features that were there. I'm looking forward to getting more familiar with these new features because to me, it centralizes things just a little bit more, but lets me break them apart when I need to.
From my opinion, having another option is always a good idea. You might not use it. And if you don't like it, you don't ever have to use it. Don't ever open the phone app on your Mac. Nobody's forcing you to. It's just that in certain situations and certain environments, that can be useful. There are times when I am sitting in front of my Mac and I would like to be able to review my voicemail messages without having to also pull out my phone. It's just a little bit easier. So for me, it isn't a matter of I'm always going to make phone calls using my Mac now. Not at all. It's a matter of sometimes I'm going to be in a situation where this is the path of least resistance. Now I have an option that allows me to skip some steps. So that's the way I think about it.
Okay. I think that's a really good way to boil it down is, you have another option. But you're right. If you don't need it or don't want it, then don't use it.
Right. And then there's Spotlight. I want to talk about Spotlight a little bit, if I may. Spotlight is supposed to be the thing where you click a thing on your menu bar or you press keyboard shortcut, a little window comes up and you type in a thing that you're looking for, and then you get a list of potential matches and you're like, oh, I want that one. Boom, you got it. And originally, Spotlight was all about the files and folders on your Mac. And over time, that kind of grew. Oh, well, now you can also search in your photos, your music, your notes, but also search the web and also search flights and sports scores and all the rest, like things that require some reaching out into the cloud. So now Apple has gone and completely overhauled Spotlight. It looks very different from how it ever did before. And it has some new features, which we can talk about. But the thing I want to say about Spotlight is, leaving aside the new features and leaving aside just changes in the way the interface looks, I have found that the new Spotlight is way worse in actually finding files on my Mac. So if I remember part of a name of a file or folder and I type that into Spotlight, I wait for results to come up. I'm like, well, no, it's not any of those websites. Scroll, scroll, scroll. No, it's not any of those apps. Scroll, scroll, scroll. No, it's not any of those shortcut actions. Not any of those songs. Not any of those photos. Boy, I'm just not finding it. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Okay, now, okay, I'm going to click the thing. I'm going to give up on the scrolling. I'm going to click the thing where it's only looking for files. And even then, it's the thing I'm looking for is inevitably not going to be one of the top files that I find. In fact, some things that I want to find that I know are actual files on my Mac, no matter in which way I look for them in Spotlight, no matter where in the Spotlight interface I look or how much scrolling I do, they don't show up at all. Whereas if I go into the search field in any Finder window and I type in that same word or phrase or whatever, shows up immediately. Both of those interfaces are relying on Spotlight. They're both relying on the same underlying index. It's just that the one in the corner of your window is only looking for files and folders unless you tell it otherwise. Whereas for Spotlight, that is now seemingly the least important or least interesting thing it thinks you might be trying to find. So without knocking the new features, I'm a little bit annoyed that the new Spotlight makes its original purpose less effective. And for me, that then requires additional steps to search. So just want to kind of lead with that. There's good stuff, but also couldn't you have also shown me that file, which I know is in your index. Okay, so you're in Spotlight and you initially show just the little search thing. But as soon as you do anything, you start typing or you move your mouse or anything, you get all these new options. So there are now these categories. There's an app category where whatever you're searching for, it's just going to show you apps. And then a files category, which I mentioned before, and a shortcuts category. Interesting if you use shortcuts a lot. And I'm sorry, it's they call it actions in this context, an actions category, which goes beyond shortcuts, and I'll mention that in a second. And then a clipboard category, which also I want to talk about. And then even when you are just searching for, just doing a generic search, like I've typed in the word spinach, I might be looking for a website about gardening. I might be looking for a recipe that's in an email message. I might be looking for a photograph of my garden. Like I could be looking for a lot of different things. Even there, you get a little row of bubbles across the top of the window where you can say, I want to focus in on notes, photos, dictionary, mail, whatever. So the actual new categories, like you could always search for apps and files, fine. The new categories in Spotlight are kind of interesting. So I mentioned actions, of which a shortcut is an example. But there are lots of tasks that you can do on your Mac that are like send a message, send an email, check something, that are maybe a little bit more than just open an app. So it's one thing to say, well, I want to send a message, so I'm going to open messages, then I'm going to pick a conversation or type someone's name, then I'm going to type the message. So what Spotlight now does with the actions category is it lets you turn a whole bunch, like hundreds of those multi-step processes that involve opening an app into a kind of fill-in-the-blank process. You type in send message or SM or whatever shortcut you want to come up with. Apple calls them quick keys when you come up with a shortcut, like a couple of letters to represent an action. And then the Spotlight window is going to say, oh, send a message. Great. Who do you want to send it to? And you start typing that name. It autofills. Great. What do you want to say in this message? You type that in, hit return, done. The message is sent. The messages app itself never even opened. It just all happened kind of in the background. So Spotlight is now a way in which you can perform many, many different kinds of actions without opening another app. And this could be something, it could be running a shortcut. I got to actually open this up here to see a list of, whoops, no, not that. I can't think and talk at the same time. So, okay, starting a timer, creating a note. Lots and lots of third-party apps have actions in here. So like I use Acorn for image editing, and that could be flip an image, enhance an image, replace text in an image, a whole long list of things in Better Touch Tool. Books, play an audiobook, use Calculator to create a random number, add an event in Calendar, on and on and on, just hundreds of these things. So that's nice because, again, it's another one of those things where it wasn't that I couldn't do it before. Like I could always pull my phone out of my pocket and make a call before. Now I have another potentially simpler way to do that. This is not fundamentally adding any new capabilities. It is adding a quicker, more direct way to do the things that your Mac could already do. So that's kind of interesting. There are other Spotlight features I'm not going to get into today, but the one I do want to mention that I have thoughts about is clipboard history. So normally I copy something. That thing is now on my clipboard and I can paste it if I want. I cut something, same thing is on my clipboard, I can paste it if I want. Now I copy something else, that something else replaces what was already on the clipboard. That thing that was there before, no longer there, can't get at it. I can only paste the new thing, the current thing that's on the clipboard. There have always been loads and loads of third-party utilities that give you a clipboard history. Oh, I copied a new thing to the clipboard, but dang it, I want the thing that was on the clipboard before. How can I get the thing that was on the clipboard before or the thing before that? So there are lots of apps that you can get that will show you what was previously on the clipboard and let you paste that thing and maybe do other fancier things with your clipboard history. So now Apple is in the game, and Apple now uses Spotlight. It's a manual. You have to turn on this feature manually. It's not going to happen automatically. But if you turn on this feature, then Spotlight is going to remember the last 8 hours worth of things that you copied to the clipboard. And you can go back and paste any of those previous things. So that's neat. And for some subset of users who previously relied on third-party utilities, that might be super, super handy. It might be enough that you don't need that third-party utility anymore. You might say that third-party utility was Sherlocked. But as I have been using this feature, I have realized that it's really poorly done. It's there, and it does give you previous things on the clipboard, but it only shows you what was previously on the clipboard. I don't want to say only. Its default method of showing you what was on the clipboard previously is to search it. Now, you can see a list. It's not that you can't see a list of the previous things on the clipboard. You can. But what it mostly wants you to do is, well, I remember that an hour ago, I pasted something on the clipboard that involved the name Chuck. So I'm going to go in there to the clipboard category, and I'm going to type in Chuck. Oh, yeah, there it is. And to me, that's a way that I would barely ever, if ever, use my clipboard history. What I want to do more often than anything else is just jump right to the previous thing on my clipboard, paste the thing that was there before the thing that's there now. And using something like Keyboard Maestro and a lot of other clipboard history apps can do this too. I can do that instantly. I don't have to search for anything. I don't have to go to a list first. I can just say, give me that previous thing on my clipboard. So that's an example, but I feel like the clipboard history is better than not having one, not nearly as good as any third-party replacement that I have found. And this 8-hour thing is supposed to be for security, so that you don't copy something sensitive and then a day later, 2 days later, somebody else who has access to your Mac can go back and look at your history and say, oh, well, 2 days ago, he copied this. But if I copy something before I go to bed, and then I get up the next morning, I want it to still be there. So the 8-hour thing is, I'm not convinced of the utility of that design. So again, it's one of these things where it's better than nothing, but not as good as I think a lot of other implementations.
Sure. The obvious question there is, are there any settings that I'm gathering that there are no settings that you can turn that 8-hour limitation off? At least as of now.
You know, as we're speaking, I just installed a new beta of the next update to Tahoe, and I haven't actually gone in to check to see if they've changed that. Not that I can see now. Oh no, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Look at this. You asked the question, and I looked and like, well, I've just made a liar out of myself. Oh, there wasn't before. Now there is. Now there's a clipboard history is available in Spotlight, a little pop-up menu in Spotlight settings for your choice: 30 minutes, 8 hours, which is the default, or 7 days. So So unhear that last remark. Unhear it. Erase it from your memory. It's not true. It's 30 minutes or 8 hours or 7 days.
But you just said you're in the next beta, so it's not there in the release. The releases that most people are going to see.
Might not be there. I obviously, it's something that I wrote about in my book, and I didn't notice. Now it's there, so I'm not exactly sure when it appeared. Apple loves to just slide things in, even during the beta process, without mentioning them. So, but you can, you can manually clear your clipboard history. The one thing you can't do is you can't say keep an indefinite history. So I guess that's what I would like.
Yeah, and I use a clipboard manager. In fact, I use two. One that keeps it indefinitely for a much longer time period, and another one that just has, I think it's like 75 of my last cut and pasted things. So, and there are advantages to both. They're absolutely. I've been kind of surprised that Apple didn't get into the clipboard manager thing earlier, that it's taken this long, but at least it's there now.
Yeah. So let me mention a few other things. Like, there's a lot of new stuff. A lot of the new things are so so minor that they're really not worth. I listed those apps earlier. Like there's new stuff in FaceTime and messages and passwords and photos and stuff. Like it's not that those features are trivial. Some of them are quite useful and quite interesting. They're just not the most interesting, most exciting core features. And I don't really feel like spending 10 minutes talking about the new ways you can generate AI features in Image Playground or whatever. So there's stuff. There's new stuff in all these apps. The Launchpad app is gone, and in my opinion, good riddance, because I always found that a very odd and confusing and tedious way to open apps. In its place is the Apps app. So it will be in the same place in your dock, but it gives you a much easier to navigate interface for finding and opening apps than Launchpad did. You still get this big grid, but it's much quicker and easier to navigate it and filter out just the kind of app that you're looking for. So the Apps app, the Games app, I always say in my books that I am as far from a gamer as a person can be. I have just zero interest in gaming. And I keep finding new ways to express this. So in this particular book, I said, my enthusiasm for gaming is legendary, like leprechauns, unicorns, and Bigfoot, which is to say it does not exist. So I am not really the person to tell you about all the new things you can do with the games, but there's a games app that kind of centralizes all the Game Center stuff. If that's your thing, there it is. The journal app, I am not a journaling person, and if I were, I would not use an app on my iPhone to do so, or an app on my Mac for that matter. I would just use a plain text editor. But if you are a journaling sort of person, that same app that you used on your iPhone is now on your Mac too, and of course the things sync. The Magnifier app, again, referring back to these, and you can't see because of the angle, but I have a big lighted magnifying glass on my desk for doing like fine detail work on something. And so I frequently, like I'm in a store and I pick up a box or something, and the label is, printed in 4-point type, and maybe I don't have my reading glasses on me. So I pull up my iPhone, I open up the Magnifier app, and I'm like, oh, that's what that says. Okay. So now I wouldn't have thought that I needed that same app on my Mac. As it turns out, that has been a useful thing for me. I can still use my iPhone as the camera. You can still connect to your iPhone camera, and now I can point my iPhone at anything, anywhere, and have a bigger image of that displayed, a much bigger image displayed on my Mac screen. That's actually kind of cool. I like that. So not everybody needs it. Again, it's an option. If it turns out that you do need that, it's nice to know that it's there. Live translation. Now I live in Canada, where we have 2 national languages and a lot of other less official languages. And I used to live in France, where, again, the national language was not my mother tongue. And I've done lots of traveling in lots of different places. It's really nice to be able to converse with someone when you do not speak their language, or even if you do, if you aren't quite so fluent. Maybe you don't quite understand all the weird vocabulary, or you can't keep up with someone speaking fast. So there were always, for a long time, there have been ways of doing live translation in various forms using an iPhone. It's gotten better now. And if you're using the phone app on your Mac, or the Messages app on your Mac or another device, or the FaceTime app on your Mac or another device, this live translation feature now comes to those. So if I'm on my Mac, I'm having a FaceTime call with someone who speaks French, and I want a little bit of backup. I want a little bit of help in case I don't quite understand everything, or I want to say something and I don't remember the word for that thing. I want to make sure that we're on the same page, or I need to speak with someone who, like my German vocabulary consists of probably 50 words. It's all but non-existent. And, same thing with my Chinese vocabulary. I can say a few things in Chinese, but not very much. So if I ever need to talk like out loud, or have a textual conversation using messages with someone using one of these languages, now I can do so on my Mac in real time. There's a limited set of languages initially. Yes, Spanish, French, German, Chinese, but that list will certainly grow in the future. And that is a very handy thing to have at my fingertips if and when I need it.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Clipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.